Weekend in, weekend out, Motorsport Australia officials are making waves. From waving flags, waving cars through pit lane, or responding to a wave for help. Wave hello to new, lifelong friends. Who knows, you might just make waves around the world. Ride the first wave. Search Motorsport Australia officials today.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Thanks for joining us this evening for the Formula V National Esports Cup. It's round 4 from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. We've got some of Australia's best sim racers, best Formula V drivers, and they're going to duke it out tonight at one of Canada's highest speed circuits. In fact, one of the quickest racetracks around the world. Only quick corners around here, with one very notable exception. Delighted to be bringing you all of the live coverage tonight on SimSpeedTV. Myself, David Haynes, joined by Scott Rankin, Jay Kennedy, our producer, and it's the Formula V National Esports Cup once again. It's been so exciting, all 3 rounds to this point, Scott. It's such a car that just races closely, races ferociously.
Yeah, I mean, the racing's just been high impacts, high bursts, high spread, because the fields are so tight right the way through. You know, everything, it's a squabble over every single corner. It's a squabble over everything, every little bit of real estate, every little bit of track. And now we go to the Great Lakes area to dive into the Mosport Park circuit. Such a cultural icon in terms of things. Corners and layout built by Formula 1 drivers, I believe, as well, Moss Corner. They were like, there should be a hairpin down there, so they threw one in. And now there's a hairpin there.
There are other lakes around the world, but none of them are quite as superior as that one. But it's a track well known from IMSA, but a lot of history around here. Think about Can-Am, think about turbocharged flat 12 Porsches with incredible horsepower in the 60s and 70s. How absolutely lethal they would have been around here. For the Formula V, very often about your minimum apex speed, about preserving momentum, about keeping your average speed up and not scrubbing it overtly. We get a lot of corners around here that will test that kind of skill set in the Formula V, all the way through that opening sector of 1, 2, and 3, a lot of elevation change through there. Always some interesting racing to be had right at the end of the lap, though, with 3 corners that flow right into each other, each one tighter than the last, and they force you to sort of compromise your line one into the next. Always fond of a last lap dive in towards turn number 10. It feels almost inevitable sometimes.
Yeah, it's such a tricky corner. Like the honestly, coming through the S's on the last lap is just you commitment, right? Because you go deep in one, then you're offline for the second one, then you're offline for the third one. Do you try and pull it up? Do you try and give somebody a nudge, put the car down the inside? Probably one of the most notable finishes of all time from Mosport Park was actually, I believe, that NASCAR truck finish. Was that mid-2010s-ish? Where the cars went through across the start-finish line, one car off in the grass, one car crossing on the track, which broke down into a fight post-race. You know, it's such a cultural, like I said, cultural icon, but it really is. It's such a floating track. I always liken it back to Phillip Island, but you got the points there, I believe, Dave.
Yeah, hopefully no fights after the race. The fight is for the championship right now, and Caleb Ballack has 395 points, puts him head and shoulders as the championship leader at the moment. Kyle Ridley and Lee Partridge close in second and third, and the top 10 of the standings, leaded by Glenn Riddell. Always one to watch in these kind of cars. And then Brodie Watts, Matthew Harriott, Thor Toller, Sam Chapman, Trevor Hearn, and Josh Burden as that top 10. Caleb Ballack, though, absolutely cemented as the one that they're all trying to catch.
Yeah, and what a phenomenal season he's really had. We saw it from Silverstone, got aggressive in the opening couple laps, really tried to shove himself out as far forward as he possibly could. Did a great job cutting his way through track. Right the way through, it was just awesome to really watch him at work. And it come out the other side, didn't it?
And here's what to expect tonight. Qualifying is currently underway and then 3 races coming up, but the key challenge, race number 2 with a reverse top 20. It means you can be the fastest driver out there. You can qualify on pole. You can go and win race 1, but you're going to have some work to do in race number 2 to come back through the field. And then in race number 3, hopefully be able to get back to where your pace dictates. That always means that in the middle of the round, in the middle of our racing tonight, things can get a little bit spicy. But like I said, qualifying underway at the moment. Lee Partridge in that provisional pole position. We've just seen Thor Tuller jump up into second.
Yeah, but Partridge punched out a really, really good time there. First of the drivers jumped down into the 40.9. So I believe there was actually quite a few drivers there in practice trim. Kyle Ridley did actually get there in practice trim, so I'm expecting a good lap to come through from him, although I believe he may have been draft assisted during practice. But, I've always said it to a lot of people, Dave, is that reverse grid races, that's where the spice of life is, because you've got to be aggressive, but at the same time, you've got to know when to be brave, when to be a little bit cautious, when to shove the nose, when to work with people, and when to set up the moves. And the guys that are successful in reverse grid races, they're generally a successful drivers. And it's not because they're quick, it's not because they're aggressive, it's because they've got the best race brains. Love reverse grid racing. So good.
So I'm still watching on in this qualifying session. We're looking at Matt Anderson as he comes through the Moss corners there, slowest part of the lap, and very, very unsighted from where you sit in these cars. It's always easy from the TV cameras to be like, oh, yeah, there's a little bit of an elevation change there. But no, you damn well can't see the corner until you're already arriving on the scene in these cars, and indeed many, many others. Matt Anderson, how are his sectors tracking at the moment? Quite got enough information to read too much into it just yet, but as you see, approaching the end of the back straight here, I don't think the straight really ends until you're into the second part of the S's here, because that seemed just about flat out through the opening right-handers. Matt Anderson's decided, nope, it's pit entry for me.
Yep, so a little bit of a practice of pit entry. Only going to be coming down there for the spare backup car this evening, but just watching Patrick Harding take the last sector as well. It's all about position. It's all about timing. It's, for me, a rhythm track, if you will, because it's not necessarily about car placement. I mean, it is, but that comes from the rhythm. If you're not in the rhythm of the track and you're not flowing the car at the right points in time, then you're always going to be offline. You can use a lot of that exit curbing there, not quite as much as Ben Bray is demonstrating for us, but the wheel inputs that I'm watching from a lot of the drivers, it's minimalistic, making sure they're flowing the car nicely. They don't want that rear end coming around, and we've seen that time and time again. The only difference from these and their bigger brethren is mainly the wings. Other than that, they're quite similar to a Formula 4, but it makes such a big change to the driving style, doesn't it, Dave?
Oh, and radiators too. And how much oil you burn, some would say. But yeah, certainly the style of racing, a very, very short wheelbase means that they're very, very twitchy, very responsive to the inputs. And also very, very key to carry your momentum. For Ben Brayer at 18th position at the moment, no, or only minimal improvement found to the end of that lap. And I think the onboard kind of told a little bit of the story at Moss Corner, where he didn't track all the way out at the first bit because you can't see where the exit of the corner is. That put him shallow to the second bit, which then put him out wide on the exit. Look at Sean McKenzie as he crosses the line and goes into another lap. Very interesting to see the lines that the Formula V drivers take around here that differ from what you'd expect in a GT3 or anything like that. Some of those much quicker cars make turn one and make the first part of the S's look far more challenging. But in these, it's about taking maybe a slightly shorter run through those parts of the lap.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? Is how you're going to do it. But ultimately, qualifying's been run. It's been done. And Kyle Ridley jumps out on top by a tenth of a second, nearly exactly. And Caleb Bellick actually jumped on the radio, by the way. David said, "Oh man, what a lap! That's a stonker." So that's a big lap from Kyle Ridley. Lee Partridge is going to line up off alongside of him, and then we'll move our way back to Thor Tuller. So it was a great lap early on for Thor Tuller, and Brody Watts will be lining up off alongside of him on the outside of row number 2. Caleb Bellick, series leader, starting tonight's race from P number 5, off alongside of Sam Chapman in P number 6. Before we move it off to 7 and 8, row number 4, Matt Anderson and Stephen Butcher. Good qualifying performances from both of those drivers. Before the final drivers inside the top 10, row number 5, James Russo on the inside of that one, and Trevor Hearn probably deeper in the pack than he would have liked there, Dave.
Potentially, but there's a lot of racing still to come. In 11th, we find Sean McKenzie and Franz Estabauer. In 12th, Cam Edwards and Alex Newton. 13th and 14th. I'd say again there, maybe some drivers we might have expected to be a little further forward, but only one driver can be on pole, I suppose. Damien Spinks and Brendan Nealon, 15th and 16th. 21 or so cars we're expecting. Cameron Dawes and Ben Breyer, 17th and 18th. We find Jordan Bielek and Patrick Harding. And that very well might be our 24 this evening. Lined up ready for the first of 3 races. Soon the starting procedure will begin for them. And I think with one qualifying session through into 3 races, consistency still key for all of them. You crash out, you spin out, you have a problem in this race, you're on the back foot for 2 more races to come.
Yeah, that's just about it, isn't it? It's settle yourself down in, make sure that you're turning the car, make sure you're positioning the car, get off the line, look after the tyre, bring the tyre in, make sure you're not pushing too hard when the tyre hasn't got the grip underneath it. I can't drive these things to save my life. I'm going to be honest, Dave. I've tried it, and I've tried it, and I've learned more and more and more respect for the guys that do this within the sim session, also within real life. It's just such an unnatural car. It wanders around quite a lot in the rear for me. Not something that I associated quite a lot with racing, and look, I've got a lot of respect for these guys that are out there tonight. It is a tricky car to navigate.
It's that transition from the straight line braking into the corner turn in that I think always seems to make people struggle, but we're ready for race 1. 20 minutes of Canadian Tire Motorsport Park to get underway. The green flag drops. Your pole sitter drops the clutch. Smoke from the engine, smoke from the tires, all goes up in the air. One driver from the outside line not getting away particularly cleanly, but Kyle Ridley's converted his pole position through a flat-out turn number 1. Tyres still cold. A lot of elevation change around here, and as you come over the crest into turn number 2, you haven't got your tyre pressures. Lee Partridge, though, he's got his bravery pants on tonight.
Yeah, Thor Tuller as well is going to try and follow him along. So Kyle, even though he got a great launch, got a little bit too far out in front early on. He's going to slot back into 3rd spot. Bellack's immediately going to be beneath his rear nose of that one. And then you've also got Sam Chapman, who had a good getaway. So I think it was, looks like it was Brody Watts that was the car that didn't get off the line quite so well. 2x2 as they run down into Moss Corner. This is going to be bravery. A little bit of caution, and they all get through their single file. That's impressive. Oh no, unfortunately in the back, someone's had a moment.
And Damien Spinks and one other have gone skittling on the way in. It's Cameron Dawes, so there's a bump somewhere on the way through that sweeping left-hander, but I suspect it's the wheels coming together that's caused the problem. Now onto the Mario Andretti straight, the back straight here. A very long time at full throttle, and they are going 3 wide for the race lead. Drivers behind trying to just stack up. Tour de France spec stuff, but I think the inside line is the place to be, as Sam Chapman will have the short run through this flat-out opening part of the S's. It gets twistier and more challenging to close out the lap, but he's timed his run perfectly onto that back straight, and that's always what we expect to see out of these cars. When we go to tracks like this, and at Phillip Island we saw it too.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was Sam Chapman in P2. He was on the outside, got a mega toe, but he took a run and he kept taking that run. He kept finding drafting partners. It was actually Caleb Ballack that got aggressive out of P3. He shuffled Kyle Ridley back to P4 coming into Moss Corner. That set him up. He got a really, really good run, but it was Sam Chapman that got the best run. Brendan Nealon was a part of that lap one incident. I think that'll either be a jump start penalty for Nealon. I think it is a jump start, and Ben Bray is the other one with a penalty. Both of those are jump starts.
Yeah, a couple black flags out there, which is interesting to see. But Caleb Ballack gets back to the lead of the race from Lee Partridge and Sam Chapman, and we've got a leading group of 11 going at the moment from Ballack all the way back to Trevor Hearn. Some winners in that part of the field as well, some drivers that have moved forward, but we are probably going to have an incident behind them coming into Moss Corner, and we are. Matt Anderson goes out wide. Someone got in super hot. And too wide is so difficult to go into that part of the circle.
Yeah, and Lee Partridge on the run down into Moss Corner through the double left-hander, coming off of Quebec Corner, which is turn number 3, down through turn number 4 as you crest that rise and hug the inside, lifted to let Belek settle in, and this is why. Now he's going to go along to the outside. Alongside of him is Thor Tuller. Tuller's going to see if he can send it 3 wide to the outside. Partridge has got the nose ahead. Now Belek's going to slot back in behind him, and here comes Tuller to the outside. Tuller will lift. No one will lift. They'll all keep the hammer down, and they settle themselves back in single file for the second last corner on lap number 2. Formula V action, David Haynes? Don't blink, you'll miss it all.
I think we're going to approach double-digit number of lead changes in just the opening laps here, the way we're going, but that skittling down at Moss Corner has separated our top 6 away from those behind. We see Trevor Hearn leading. James Roster's on the inside. Sean McKenzie around the outside of 1. Come the inside of this sort of two-parter of turn 2. Very much a double apex corner in some cars. Is it for Formula V's? Looks like it.
Yeah, well, it's the grip. The big thing for this one, Dave, and I think you'd know it because I think you've done some laps on the sim here, is the grey line. That's where the rubber's laid down. It's on the left-hand side of the track. So a fractional lift, keep the car back to the left-hand side of the track. You'd think maybe along the way around the corner, a little bit more momentum. Yeah, look, in a Formula V, you can probably do it. A lot of other cars, you really can't. There's only one line through there. But all the grip on the left-hand side of the road through turn number 2. That's critical for these guys.
Only one line for the leaders this time as they go through Moss Corner, and those who had an opportunity to maybe look down the inside there thought better of it and drive it around further back. Aaron Edwards dropping backwards, but our top 6 make it cleanly onto the Andretti straight, and we're going to see just about a replay, I think, of what's happened previous times. The lead position is the hot seat, and we go 3 wide once again towards the S's.
Yeah, it's Partridge again with the nose ahead. It's the same protagonist from last lap. Caleb Belek Caleb Belek's actually on the inside. It was Lee Partridge that led us onto the straight. Tuller's been escorted to the left-hand side of the road as they turn it in at the crest of the hill, up into turn 8. He was on the left-hand side. Now he's managed to slot into P number 2. Can he take full advantage of it? Well, Caleb Belek's trying to push out as far ahead as he possibly can. What's going on with that second pack, Dave? I want to see whether Trevor Hearn's making some ground.
2.2 seconds at the moment between Ridley in 6th and Hearn in 7th, and this isn't helping. Sean McKenzie gets down the inside at turn number 1. They both carry immense speed through there. That's a key characteristic of this track, and immense speed around the outside of turn number 2 for the race lead as well. Only a couple of minutes into the first of 3 races, and it's already getting absolutely wild. We're going to look at the replay here. Moss Corner, and it's just a checkup that happens in that tabletop section, and that's what sends Cameron Edwards around. Nose to rear contact, side by side for the race lead right now as they head into Moss Corner again. It is absolutely one of the action zones of the lap.
Yeah, but the critical thing is build the exit. Don't worry too much about how you get into Moss Corner. Get the draft, build your exit, focus on the drive up. I reckon that second pack are actually starting to close. I reckon they're picking up the smallest whiff of a little bit of a draft out the back there. But now watch this. Who's at the back end of this pack? I think it's Kyle Ridley. Keep your eyes on Ridley. Look at the run that he's getting. He's actually calm. He's going to sit off the back end of these guys. Let them squabble about it for the next lap or so. Make sure that he's still attached to the rear bumper. But in the meantime, it's the guys at the back end of this pack that have got the most momentum. And here it comes to the outside yet again. That's somebody's gearbox. I can tell you that thing is working very hard tonight. Caleb Teller still on the left-hand side of the road. Partridge manages to slot it into P number 3. Chapman will be down the inside of him as they come to the second last corner. And Ridley's still got the bucket of popcorn out. Settled to watch things from the rear.
Another lap done, and Caleb Bellac moving one side to the other, looking to break that toe. It really is a Northern Hemisphere Phillip Island, far less penguins around, I would wager with some confidence. For Bellac, still in that hot seat of the race lead, with Tuller looking around the outside of turn number 2. And this group behind, will they manage to drop single file, manage to close in on the leaders, because the leaders are willing to give away a little bit of time to try to defend track position at the moment, which is always what you want to see when you're trying to catch them.
Yeah, and Thortallow's got a lot of bravery. The interesting thing watching him over the last couple of laps is he's actually switched sides of the road at turn 2, turn 3, and then turn 4. He was looking to see what's it like here, what's the grip like, what's the draft like. That'll be key. When we come down to the last couple of laps, he's going to be one of the guys with the most amount of experience, provided he keeps swapping sides of the road. Well, what does Caleb Bellac think? How do you mentally manage that? Critical thing for me, he's been covering that inside of the road, so it's going to make it, I think a fake will be the way to get the lead off of him.
Once again, Bellac staying driver's right-hand side up against the white line, saying you're going to have to get around the outside of me to pass me. Tuller is all the way up around the outside. Lee Partridge looks like he goes to the middle, comes across, and then he has the nose in front for the race lead on the preferred racing line, slotted the gap in the middle, timed it to perfection. He goes to the race lead. Will be 7 more laps in this, the first of 3 races. I think we can predict all of them are going to have this kind of flavour.
Yeah, what's that gap now back from Kyle Ridley to P7, to Trevor Hearn? It's starting to close. No, it's still 2 seconds, so it's not really starting to make any ground. I think Hearn needs an ally. Who's going to work with him? Because he's clearly the faster car out of that one. And, whoa! Max just had a huge issue.
Yeah, the leaders tangle, and then he rolls backwards onto the racing line. Caleb Bellac sends 3 cars skyward into the air. Thought Tuller leads. There must have been wheel contact. Sean McKenzie's on his lid in the outfield of turn number 2, like a beetle on its back, and a replay is going to give us all of the answers. The leaders tangle, and it spells disaster. Heading up the hill in towards 2. Tuller around the out. Partridge and Bellac make contact.
Yep, so update as well from that one. My word, look at them bounce, look at them spin. I can tell you that the safety car has been called. So we will be under a safety car, which will allow the whole pack to sort of regather themselves, resettle themselves. There's been a couple toes back to pit lane. Safety car's going to wait there and try and grab the leader, who's actually coming down the back straight at the moment. And like you said, Thortallow's the leader at that one. We're going to have a safety car or a grab back up of the field in a few moments to sort of catch our breath and figure out exactly what went on there, Dave, because that was immense, that accident.
Well, I mean, it starts with you don't want to touch wheel-to-wheel in open-wheel cars, which is pretty basic. The way these cars are, you know, you get a huge amount of advantage from the slipstream. It keeps the packs together, but what you can't do is touch wheels like that. And so one driver sort of wants to hold their line, squeeze the other driver wants to open up the inside line to take a preferable angle on the way in. Yeah. And they make contact behind as the pace car backs up the group on the blind side of the crest at turn number 2.
There was an issue, I think it was Kyle Ridley, I think was the issue car actually, was something just happened. So we're going to get an option to review this from the onboard shot. From Butcher, what's going on here? It's just a checkup. He's blind, completely blind as they come over the crest looking for the safety car.
A couple of blind crests around this circuit, unfortunately, makes it a challenge for the drivers. I got to imagine that at racing speed, coming over that turn 2 crest, knowing the corner that sits on the other side of it must be, well, incredibly frightening but rewarding when you get it right. And it's just the field were as they approached with a bit too much speed. Probably had a couple of signs that they should have woed it up a little bit approaching that, though.
Yeah, well, I sort of want to point out a couple of things about Kyle. I actually caught up with Kyle Ridley on Monday night, and he just said, look, I mean, if something could go wrong in sim racing at the moment, it's basically gone wrong. We talked a little bit about stewarding, about race control, about penalties. He said, look, the penalties they've received, look, they're viable, right? But they're on the harsh side of viable. But every single time it comes up, being a little bit unlucky. Then you add in a moment like that. He tried a fuel-saving strategy in the race that I was competing with him on Monday night, and he missed it. He was a lap short, so he's not having a good time at the moment in the world of sim racing. He's just switched teams from Rug Leap Juice Racing to Vermilion SimSports, and man, I feel bad for him. He's trying his hardest. He's throwing everything at the wall at the moment, but it's just a frustrating time in the world of sim racing. That happens from time to time.
Catching my breath a little bit and looking at where we sit at the moment behind this safety car. Sam Chapman from 6th on the grid to 2nd. And other sort of big movers, Newton from 14th on the grid to 8th, Jordan Bielak from 19th on the grid to 9th. So, yeah, when some drivers go backwards, other drivers go forwards.
Good race from... I mean, Bielak probably, to be perfectly honest, he was probably the big winner out of that accident, because I think he just managed to He was in a reasonable spot. He made about 8 spots or so, and then he's, another 3 to 4 cars just sort of got out of the way at the right possible time. So, some drivers have bad nights, some drivers have bad months, and at the moment, Jordan Bielak's having a good old night.
Yeah, certainly gained a lot of positions in this first race so far, and positioned very well. Again, it takes your lead group and it brings everyone into that with an opportunity when this race resumes. It will be an absolute sprint to the end of this race.
6 minutes on the clock. This is going to be all out. This will be the last lap of the safety car as well. So we'll be pulling away from the field at the end of the lap. And I can tell you, we are about to go ham, go get aggressive. Thortuller and Sam Chapman lead the way at the moment, but I don't know for how long. Brody Watts has got a huge opportunity to get himself a race win here tonight. Matt Anderson's there. Bialik, Cam Edwards is at a torrid all time of late, and he's also got himself an opportunity. Who's your money on here, Dave? It's definitely not the guy leading. He's generally not the guy who wins it. It's generally what, 3rd, 4th? It's a tough question here.
No, I reckon I'm going back to Lee Partridge in 7th.
Ooh.
I reckon. Yeah, what do we got? Probably still the best part of 3 or 4 laps. Yeah, no, I stand by that. Safety car pulling away from the field. Thortuller as the race leader starting to compress them a little bit, though I don't think there's a huge advantage to doing that too much. The more you string the field out, the more likely it is that the drivers behind you battle each other and don't catch you than in a field like this where suddenly you're vulnerable to, the next 10 cars behind you in the train. 4 minutes 30 seconds on the clock as we go green flag racing again. They will get a couple laps in to finish race number 1. Thortuller in the hot seat at the moment. Many competitive drivers behind him will race that Formula V. The way that they use the slipstream to beat pack racing cars and really put the pressure on him.
I can tell you from the rear of the field, Trevor Hearn's down there. Patrick Harding's the car that's just gone wide at turn 2. He's off over there. Somebody else is spinning. I think it was Ben Breyer. It's either Ben Breyer or Brendan Nealon who's backwards. In actual fact, I think it might be both of them.
Yeah, looked like Harding, Breyer, and Nealon up front. Almost a 4-car breakaway. A little bit of a battle for 5th as we came to the restart, and this is why I'm not a betting man, because suddenly Lee Partridge finds himself mired in a second group of drivers that he can't make progress through, and as they cost themselves time, the top 4, top 5 start to stretch away. Portala still holding on to that race lead, but as we get onto the Mario Andretti straight, you just know if you're in the lead coming onto this straight, you will not be in the lead by the end of it.
Have a look at Chapman. He's getting aggressive. Cameron Dawes in behind. Lee Partridge is getting aggressive. Partridge is just being boxed in. So that's really, really good driving. Really good awareness, good positioning there from Dawes. Cam Edwards is doing everything he possibly can to hang on at least a couple of spots. And Partridge, you said it, he might get aggressive. Well, he's gone backwards. He's absolutely gone backwards on this restart.
Sure has. Brody Watts now leading them with what will be 2 laps to go, no pun intended at all. Sam Chapman, Portala, Matt Anderson, the top 4, looking like the drivers with the best chance of taking a race win at the moment, as they now pull 2 seconds on the group behind, led by Cameron Edwards and then Cameron Dawes, James Russo and Lee Partridge in 8th at the moment. Absolutely nothing to separate them there, nose to tail, as we approach turn 2. Suddenly you can see a fresh meadow and pasture on the far side of the crest.
Yeah, so 4-car breakaway. They've settled themselves in really, really nicely. I think Matt Anderson's just watching these guys biding his time. It's that second pack that's the real curious one for me. Edwards has got control of it. Cam Dawes, Lee Partridge is then in behind it, but they're 3 wide as they come off of turn number 3. Quebec corner down over the crest, and now they'll look down through turn number 4. They managed to settle themselves down just a little bit. Partridge starting to make time. They're blocking in the background. I think it was Franz Estebel was trying to get down the inside of, I think it might have been Caleb Bellac. No, it was Bellac who got down the inside of the car in behind him. So Bellac got aggressive, managed to get himself a couple spots, and now Estebel is going to have somebody work with him, and we're going to have 1 more lap this time by Dave, and it is about to get spicy.
Estebau's all in the middle of it, so he sees when it goes from single file to fanning out 3 wide in the group in front of him, and he looks to try to pick what lane will be most advantageous to him. In the race lead, Sam Chapman has done likewise to try to get around Brody Watts in the S's. 3 wide, 2 deep, flying in formation like roulettes here in the second group. Lee Partridge has worked his way to the front of it though. Big slide from the second into the third phase of the S's. James Russo, Partridge gets to 5th place, but in 1 lap he's not going to be able to catch the lead, as race 1, the win will be between Sam Chapman, Brody Watts, Matt Anderson and Thor Tuller. And I tell you what, again, I couldn't put odds on any of them the way that they go on the Mario Andretti straight. Put some respect on his name, I should. Yeah, wide on the grass, Cameron Dawes.
I tell you what, Lee Partridge is really trying to put the foot down. Cam Edwards is getting aggressive with the blocks as well. He's really covering the track nicely at the moment. He's just checked up James Russo, it was in behind him. So at the moment, I'm enjoying watching Cam Edwards drive. I think this is the best I've seen him defend for a very, very long time, but he's just got a little bit of a whack from James Russo. Well, all of the shackles have just been broken. No holds barred. There's only a couple corners to go in a big, long straight. I think Partridge is vulnerable.
Drive off of Moss. So important, and the drivers in 2nd, 3rd and 4th, they know it. They're thinking Sam Chapman's not a chance here. He's going to come under so much pressure. This is the group from 5th, 6th, 7th on. Partridge being hunted by Cameron Edwards. James Russo, again, you see this move time and time again. They pull out of the slipstream, you follow their slipstream, and then you pull out of theirs. We end up 3 wide on the back straight, and we've got tyres in the grass. The pass for the lead. Matt Anderson trying to get to the inside of the final corner in our lead group, and they're still 3 wide. And of course, it's going to end in tears as Brody Watts spins out in the 49. 3-way fight for the race number 1 win. Sam Chapman has his nose back in front. Matt Anderson looking to carry speed off the final corner, but the checkered flag comes up quickly, and Sam Chapman takes the first race win. Delight for some, disaster for others.
Oh, that was a huge hit. That was a huge, huge hit for Brody Watts, who's gone from, fighting for a race win to on his lid, unfortunately, last lap shenanigans. But what about Sam Chapman? He had a great run in that Chrome car. He was showing his strong ability to utilize the drafting, and it was the timing for me from Sam Chapman that was crucial a race. In the opening couple laps, he got aggressive, he timed his run, he got out there, he looked at it, what he could do on that back straight to get to the lead, and then he set it up for that last lap.
An incredibly unpredictable race number 1 sets a form guide for the evening that means you should probably get extra popcorn going. Sam Chapman with the race win from Matt Anderson, Thor Tuller, James Russo, Cam Edwards, Lee Partridge, Kyle Ridley, France Estebauer, Alex Newton, and Jordan Bielek as the top 10, and one of the biggest movers throughout the race for sure. Damien Spinks, Ben Breyer, Trevor Hearn, Brendan Nealon, Brody Watts, Cameron Dawes, Caleb Bellack. Wow. And Patrick Harding, Stephen Butcher, Sean McKenzie as the 20 drivers. Remember, we take that, we invert it straight up, and they're gridding now for race number 2. Sean McKenzie from on his lid at halfway in race number 1 to on the pole for race number 2.
Yep, and there's a couple drivers in there that were really, really critical. Number one is Caleb Bellack. Look, he'll be starting in 6th in this race. Really good opportunity for him. Trevor Hearn immediately in behind, but that means that he didn't bank points in that first race. This might be an opportunity for a number of drivers up and down the field to grab spots here tonight. Kyle Ridley ended up from coming to the pit lane and having to start nearly at the tail end of the lead lap cars, got his way through, picked up some nice points there tonight, and now Sam Chapman as well, off of the back row of the grid. What can he do from back there? Engines on. Green flag in the air. We're back racing here, Dave. Race number 2 of 3.
Sean McKenzie converts that race start, but it's cold tyres for everyone now, and you know that just getting away from the line doesn't mean you're going to lead at the end of the first lap. What it does allow him to do is build his tyre temperature in without needing to look as much in his mirrors or as much side by side as others have to do. Coming through turn number 2 for the first time in this scene. You're on the outside there. So easily you can just get your tyres into the grass and end up sailing into the wall. Happened multiple drivers in race number 1. Happens no matter what you race here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. It's just one of those danger wedges to be on the outside of turn number 2. But now they head down towards Moss Corner. This is where things really started to kick off crazy in race number 1, because the leader slipstreamed really closes them all up in by about this point in the lap onto the Mario Andretti straight for the first time in race number 2. Cleanly for some, a little bit of a wild ride for others.
Yeah, I can tell you at the back of the pack, Thor Tuller and Sam Chapman, the guys were at the front end of things in race number 1, didn't get a really good getaway. They were still right the way back down there. A lot of work to do from them. But Brody Watts, I mean, he was on his lead on the last lap. Now he leads. Look, frustrating end to race number 1. Can he convert in race number 2?
Side by side for the upside down men, mayhaps. 3 wide into the S's. You can get away with it most of the time because it's pretty well flat out at that point. But now you start needing the brakes, starting to make those downshifts into the end of the lap here. And Brody Watts looks like he is going to go to that race lead. McKenzie holding on a second, getting it wild, looking for the 3 wide behind them there between Bellack, Dawes, and Butcher. Trevor Hearn's got a good view of it from here in 7th place at speed through turn 1 for the first time, and I'm going to stay on the outside of that apex curb in 1. Sometimes you can sort of straddle that one around here.
It's nearly go-kart line, like you hook an inside tyre around it and it just hooks on the backside of the curb because it's a little bit sharp, a little bit more grip there sometimes, really hook it. But yeah, not so on a Formula V. I can understand that it probably really unsettled the tyres, and with not as much grip onto the tyres as a lot of other cars. Yep, that'd definitely make a lot of sense to me. Watts is driving well. Sean McKenzie's, I think, a little bit slow. I think he's being held in here by the draft. It will be critical to see when Caleb Bellack goes, because obviously you're not going to push out in front and disappear into the sunset, but never mind, here he comes.
And at Moss Corner, McKenzie goes back to 3rd. Bellack goes up into 2nd place. The lead of this race, it's a very unpleasant game of pass the parcel, because when the music stops on you, you don't get to maybe open a present.
Brody Watts just showed who he prefers to have working with him out of these 2. And that says to me, I don't want Caleb Bellack anywhere near me. One of the big things I've noticed about Bellack over the season thus far, he is aggressive. He absolutely is aggressive. And boxing him in, I think, was one of the smartest things Brody Watts could have done. That is letting your colours known and letting your intentions show on lap number 2.
McKenzie looking around the outside of his first part of the S's to get back to that race lead, but they are going to still be completely side by side, maybe by Brody Watts' own design. Yeah, well, that's to break the slipstream on the pit straight a little bit as well. We've seen that happen a couple of times, because they then go just about flat out through turn number 1, and you're looking to defend your position into 2. Brody Watts ends up driver's right, ends up driver's left, wandering around just a little bit, and it is so densely packed behind him, and the group behind as well. They're going to appear in the picture about 3 wide there as well. The longer that goes on, the more you sense disaster is imminent.
One of my favourite things to watch is when that battle pack graphic just grows and grows and grows. And Formula V Australia is certainly capable of that. The big winners out of that one, Kyle Ridley, fastest lap of the race so far, up a number of spots. He's already to 6th place. Yep, that's it. The battle for first. Oh, it's only got 19 cars in it. Why don't you?
A couple of cars come together, though, on the exit of the corner. A couple of cars came together on the way in as well. And finally, it kicks off in a slightly predictable way. And Brodie Watts and Trevor Hearn look like they are going to break away somewhat. So something happened for a bit of a checkup. Maybe someone missed a gear coming out of the exit of the Moss Corner complex.
Well, Caleb Bellick was involved. Kyle Ridley was involved. Man, I need to stop talking about him. Like I said, unlucky. Well, commentators cursed him after race number 1. So I think there was a checkup. I know Bellac was involved in it. I know obviously Ridley was one of the other cars. So that's Trevor Hearn down the inside. I think that's Cameron Dawes and Sean McKenzie that have actually come together. It's either that or James Russo would be the other car in the Minimi Formula V entry. The 36 was Dawes. There you go. So unfortunately, it's just tripping over each other. Where do you go when that happens, Dave? There's never a safe spot.
I close my eyes and I go to my happy place. That's about the only thing you can do, I think. So, are we now going to see teammates try to work together here between Watts and Hearn? Cameron Dawes would say, please don't. Lee Partridge in 4th. Alexander Newton 5th. Tried to close them in.
It's tight. He's just for an update. It's a 1/10 of a second or so outside of the draft for Cameron Dawes on Trevor Hearn. So there is nothing in it. He really just wants one of them just to stumble the tiniest little bit, and he will be back in there. In fact, Cameron Dawes is right on the fringe. I think he might have done it. I think he's just barely bought his way back into this argument. So we might have ourselves a 3-way argument at the front end of things. But have a look at Lee Partridge. He's always pulling that secondary group along. Yep, he's going to get another opportunity to do it this race as well.
On board with the 3rd place man, looking at the drivers in front. Now they go side by side. He has to try to pick which lane is going to be most beneficial. They do the leapfrog that sends Trevor Hearn to the race lead. Looks to preserve their gap and give them a little bit of safe haven from the chaos behind. 2 wide, predictably, from the group being led by Alexander Newton now. Partridge. Damien Spinks is trying to buy into that somewhat as well.
A little bit of a moment for Trevor Hearn on the outside of the final corner. This actually, again, another opportunity for Cameron Dawes to buy in. So he's got to be there. He's got to be within that second marker. Oh, he's missing it by nothing. There's nothing in this. And have a look at this 3rd pack now that's just all tripping over itself. They might have an opportunity of running down Cameron Dawes at this rate.
I feel like Dawes falling back is more likely than him catching the 2 in front at the moment, though it's still possible if just one of them has a little mistake between the leading duo. You're in a little bit of a no man's land if you're Cameron Dawes at the moment.
Something's happened in that second group yet again. Not 100% sure. Didn't grab it off the. I believe that's Spinks that's off the road. Damien Spinks.
Yeah, I think something happened that spooked him. And I didn't catch exactly what it was, but Spinks has then had a very, very big impact with one of the unprotected walls. Having a look, I think someone goes around in the background and he just grass. No. So someone goes around in the background. Okay.
Yeah, Stephen Butcher, you were 100% right on that one, Dave Haynes. It was Stephen Butcher at the back of that next pack, and Caleb Bellac nearly come a cropper on him. So that was the issue that those guys were having. He just had to come through the corner and just swing a little bit wide. So chaos in the mid-race. I think that's standard affair for Formula Vs.
Doesn't surprise you by about this point of the evening, that's for sure. Watts and Hearn swapped again, trying to play this leapfrog game, and it's working to this point. They've dropped another second or so on Cameron Dawes, who finds himself The blowtorch from Lee Partridge, who moves up into third place. Franz Estebauer in that group picks up the fastest lap of the race, so there's some speed. There's some speed here, but not if they touch wheels.
Well, I was just going to say, Cameron Dawes is about to sweep back across in front of Franz Estebauer at that point in time. Tried to shove the nose to the inside of Lee Partridge on the run into turn number 2, 3 wide. That's a little bit too brave for my liking, Cameron Dawes. You're better off just waiting for a little bit later in the lap. You'll get something done there.
So Dawes drops back to 7th. As quickly as he gets chewed up, he gets spat out to the tail of this group, and Partridge with speed. Some of them seem to almost look like they are content to let him lead for the moment, but I still don't see a group of unaffiliated drivers being able to catch two teammates who are working together. The strength of the slipstream and the time you lose when you battle side by side to say that two drivers working together really can achieve a lot.
It can,
it's side by side at the lead though.
More hands make light work, right? So 3 drivers, if they work together properly, is actually slightly quicker. The problem is getting racing car drivers to work together when it's more than just a teammates working together. Well, Sam Chapman's here now. He could genuinely set up an opportunity for these guys, and then this is the third pack as well, which has got Bellick and Ridley in it. So those guys have certainly got pace, because you've got your pole sitter and championship leader in that group. So they might have an opportunity to buy themselves on the back of the next pack, which has got Partridge and Chapman in it.
I feel like there are multiple reality TV formats that also involve trying to form alliances just to break them at the critical point to come away with victory. That is kind of what is definitely playing out in these groups here for third, in the group behind for 8th. And I think treachery is already afoot as Franz Estebauer swoops around the outside into third place with Sam Chapman side by side with Lee Partridge.
Well, here we go.
An immunity idol though.
No, and Partridge thought about shoving a nose in. He's actually forced the mistake from Estebauer. But now the problem is he's got Alexander Newton who's going to get a mega toe on the run down on Moss Corner. Newton will pull out and think about it, but he lifted just at the last possible moment, so they're going to get sorted single file out. And with 9 minutes on the clock, they were starting to make just the tiniest little bit of an inroad. In the meantime, Newton makes a mistake on the run into Moss Corner. That lets Estebauer back through. And there's another car that's brought their way into this. It's Cameron Dawes as well. So he's managed to close back up a little bit. They did drop some time on this current lap.
First and second appear out of the dip in the Mario Andretti straight. Then the following pack does as well. 2.5 seconds. Actually, a little more between Brody Watts in second. Lee Partridge currently in third, sticking all the way to the inside line, right up against the white line. Others are going to follow him. Eventually, Franz Estebauer gets on his bike and looks to move around the outside. A move that can work to hold your position around the outside here, and then at the first braking zone, have the inside. Partridge will be well wise to it, but looks like he can't cover it off, and Estebauer does jump in front.
What about the move, though, from Sam Chapman? That was aggressive, trying to get back down the inside of Alex Newton. He got the spot back out of that one as well. So it was a little bit of a dive, a little bit of a duck, a little bit of a weave, and he grabbed that one. And now Partridge is going to get on that gas pedal, rest his foot on it for most of the lap, and get that spot back away from Estebauer. So these guys have given up working together. This is now an out-and-out race.
Got down the inside of one, put him on the outside for 2 millimeters away from touching the grass there, and he might have had to get out of it a little bit. And now Estebauer carries the momentum through this part of the track where it is so critical. Turns 1, 2, and 3, very, very high speed. I suspect this is probably one of the circuits we're going to visit with the most amount of time in 4th gear.
Yeah, just about flat out right throughout the lap. I think it was only the downshift in the last sector and the downshift at Moss Corner. Other than that, you are just about flat out the entire lap. Slight lifts allow the car to transition. That first 2, they're gone now. It's absolutely done at this point in the race. David Haynes going to take a massive mistake for those guys to get reeled in now. So these guys have decided, all right, well, if that's the case, it's on for the best of the rest. Who wants it, ladies? Let's get it out. Let's play a few rounds, and we'll see who comes out on top.
So what's the gentlemanly thing to do between Trevor Hearn and Brody Watts? Do you go whoever's got the championship lead, or do you try to do rock, paper, scissors down the back straight on the last lap?
I don't think you do. I think you race it out as teammates and you have fun and you giggle away whilst you're doing it. I know I would.
Tires in the grass for
Chapman.
Chapman it was, yeah. Had a big wiggle. It's him to the tail of this group. Managed to not spin out of it. But Estebauer then leads Partridge and Newton in this group. They're pulling away from the others. Kyle Ridley, Caleb Bellack, Thor Tuller, and Brendan Nealon you see here. And there's Sean McKenzie, Cam Edwards. That's all of our battle pack drivers with 4 laps to go. Lee Partridge, middle of the road. Estebauer thinking, can I get down the inside here? And he can. There's only just one car width and a millimeter from the grass. Maxime Parker for Sam. Alexander Newton, I think it was, actually.
Yeah, and I'm just keeping half an eye on that group in behind them as well. This isn't necessarily over back to those guys. I mean, you've got the best drivers, I think, theoretically in the field. You've got, your pole sitter Kyle Ridley. You've got Thor Tuller, who was so strong in that last race. You've got Caleb Bellack. All, again, guys that have showed their out-and-out speed. If they're allowed to punch out and work together at the front. I think they're out of time, though. That's the key. If there was maybe another lap, 2 laps left in this race, theoretically, catching Sam Chapman might be an opportunity. But, I think it's just out of the question now. So it'll be within those battle packs. I think everyone's just about locked in.
Once you know your division and your weight category, I guess that's where you're fighting in the final 5 minutes of this race. Purely progressive grid from race number 2 into race number 3. So you are also fighting for grid spots in the final race of the night. I think that's a little more elementary to just fighting for the positions at the moment. You don't have time to think too deeply about it when you're in a non-stop wheel-to-wheel racing pack like this. Around the outside, Newton looking to cover across, get to the lead of this group at a tactical time. You could have held back the last couple of laps, but now you've kind of got to put it all out there.
Yeah, well, it's going to be 3 laps to go this time by as well, isn't it? So it's so critical who's got the lead at the exact right time. Newton's actually starting to show a turn of speed, so I wonder whether or not he was watching these guys, not necessarily from the practice session, not necessarily from qualifying, but he took a lot of lessons out of race number 1. Be interesting to see what his pace looks like in race number 3, whether or not he can go with that front group, because he's no slouch. He's hanging on to these guys legitimately. Estebauer's found something as well, so quite intrigued to see from a number of drivers here, including Cam Dawes. Like I said earlier on in the race, I thought he was just being held into this group with the slipstream. I'm going to change that. I think he's done a great job improving throughout the race.
I think a force has definitely acted on Alex Newton to take him from at rest to a position of movement. And he's up battling for 3rd place, but then they collide on the exit of Moss Corner. It lets Lee Partridge break away in 3rd, but Newton, Estebauer, and others with damage on the exit of Moss.
Yeah, and now they're all going to try and get themselves in line as well. There's a missing nose cone for Alex Newton, and now Franz Estebauer, you can see the steering damage, you can see the trouble that he's having trying to get the power into that car and trying to get it back to the pit lane so we can at least finish this race. And we're in with such a good fight, but you can't rest for a moment. The instant that you lose that little bit of concentration, you're thinking about, okay, how many laps left? Where are we going to be? Oh no, there's a car. Oh, I'm into him. That's it. Race done.
Sam Chapman and Cameron Dawes also, while not picking up damage, lost time from that and are going to struggle to catch 3rd place Lee Partridge at the moment. Fall back into this group here, now led by Caleb Bellack in 6th. You see the battle graphic and they all know 2 more laps to go right now. Pressure right back on.
The critical thing for me...
Newton's gotten away without too much damage here.
Yeah, he's actually okay. It's just the nose cone is the critical thing. Who's got the checkup? Because it was definitely a checkup, but who was it? I just think that's a cheeky show of the nose from Cam Dawes. You just can't shove it in there. You're better off just being patient, waiting for that back straight and getting through then. And it was Estebauer hit the wall quite hard as well.
Really cleared it up a little bit there. That side-to-side contact at the second part. And then the driver behind, of course, not able to avoid it. Big lead now for Brodie Watts and Trevor Hearn. Absolutely no big lead in the 6th place battle here. Still led by Caleb Bellack.
With a minute 50 on the clock at this point in time, Hearn is in 2nd place. Do you reckon he's gaming Brodie Watts? Do you reckon they're talking about what we talked about earlier on? Because they're going to go side by side now as they run up to the S's and as far away from each other as physically possible. That's Brodie Watts lifting. That was definitely Brodie Watts lifting. So Trevor was playing the timing game. Now do they push on? Who's going to seal this one? There will certainly be some banter in the Discord about that. I'm going to take it. No, I'm going to take it. No, I'm going to fight you back for it. I'm going to crisscross you here. Always good fun when you're racing along with mates.
Flip a coin, heads for Hearn, tails for Watts. I reckon they have taken the start of the final lap in race number 2. I guess you got to also think, so who should have pole for race number 3 as well? Who's the better starter? Might also have to factor into that. They do not look at all at risk of being caught by Partridge in 3rd at the moment. This, an unrelenting, unforgiving battle pack. We know Caleb Ballack super quick in these cars, but he is a mother duck at the moment.
Yeah, trying to shepherd all his little ducks along and try and drag them up to the rear bumper of Cameron Dawes. They're out of time, though, and now that means with Bellac in front of this group that he's the vulnerable. Might be the mother duck. Well, now he's sort of shepherd them all. Get all your ducks in a row, put them all in the right spot. Who is going to get aggressive out of this pack? Newton's actually found speed. Even without that nose cone, he can hang with these guys, so he's not out of this yet.
Ballac's got a couple of car lengths here, and the way they're fighting each other behind him, I think he might just be safe at the moment. You would have thought he'd need to be tactical on the final lap, but he's just got the foot down and he just pulled away from them. So for the race win, the teammates almost side by side on the back straight, but do you sense Hearn still rolling out of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's decided now, isn't it? It's probably a little bit late. Do they try and go even across the finish line, a la Michael Schumacher and what was it, Jenson Button? Is that what they're attempting to try and pull off here?
Would have been his Brazilian teammate at the time. I think they tried to pull it off. Well, the checkered flag's here. We're not going to get a contrived photo finish, I don't think. And Brodie Watts takes the race win from Trevor Hearn. Partridge on the podium. Ballack only just holding on by the skin of his teeth. Nose to tail in behind him, heading towards the line. Kyle Ridley almost trying to bump draft him as Sean McKenzie went side by side with them.
Yeah, well, I mean, how quickly can your evening turn from on his lid in race number 1 to the lid of the field in race number 2? That's a cracker.
Almost all across the checkered flag, and you know, some races, some styles of racing, if you're not in the top 3, you're having a relatively boring race. I think if you're in the top 3, you were having a boring race here. That middle meat of the sandwich for race number 2, absolutely insane. And we'll look at the results of race number 2. Brodie Watts, Trevor Hearn, Lee Partridge, Sam Chapman, Cameron Dawes, Caleb Ballack, critically just trying to continue to bag points at every opportunity to not sap too much championship lead. Kyle Ridley, Sean McKenzie, Thortella, Brendan Nealon as the rest of the top 10, and just outside of it, Cam Edwards, Alex Newton, Matt Anderson, James Russo, Jordan Bielek, Ben Breyer, Franz Estebauer, last car on the lead lap, 1 lap down, Damien Spinks and Patrick Harding, 2 laps down, Stephen Butcher. Slightly less damage, but just as much excitement in race number 2, and it's a purely progressive grid into race number 3. The drivers get a chance to catch their breath after 2 non-stop races of action. So do we. SimSpeedTV will be back in just a minute with the final race of Formula V National Esports Series from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park.
It's motorsport, but not as you know it. Test yourself and your everyday road car. Safe, affordable, but most of all, fun. And all you need is your daily driver. Experience the thrill of a sprint day. Race against the clock at a hill climb. Or test your reflexes with an auto test. It takes just 3 simple steps to get started. Get on the start line. Search Motorsport Australia Daily Driver today.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Two unbelievable races so far, one more to come tonight, and there is yet more still to play out in this championship. Let's take a look at the revised schedule as we get ready for the final race of tonight. We've had Silverstone Circuit, we've had Okayama. Barber, unfortunately, had to be delayed, so it now happens next week. And that then completes our schedule, even though it gets it out of order. It still makes sense when you think about it, that we're here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and then we kind of go back to the delayed round 3. And then, of course, still to come as well, Alton Park circuits at Britain. So that's one of the chicanes that make racing less fun. So without it is good. Sandown, we are absolutely looking forward to that one. A track that should suit these cars very well, as well as being a local favourite and well known to many of our drivers as well. Watkins Glen, don't think I need to say too much about that one, and everything I just said about Sandown I suspect I can repeat about Phillip Island. Amazing track for this style of racing, and also dear and dear to our hearts. October 4th is when that takes place and we crown a champion.
Yeah, and I think that's been done on purpose because the racing in series number 1 of the Formula V Australia series was just phenomenal from Phillip Island. I think Phillip Island was just about the best round of the season. So I can sit down and say hand on heart, I absolutely can't wait for that one to go on again. And then in one season, Dave, we'll get to compare American Phillip Island and Australian Phillip Island at the same time.
Bonza. So remembering that our finishing order of race number 2 will become our grid for this final race of the evening, Formula V National Esports Cup. And I mean, you just can't predict what you're going to see. Anyone in the top 10 a chance, anyone leading the race also very highly likely that they will be slipstreamed past. Wheel-to-wheel contact could see them lose 20 positions in the blink of an eye. Closeness of the racing means small problems become big position losses. Let's take a look at our grid for race number 3.
And what a race from Brodie Watts and Trevor Herner, that last one. The teammates working together, they put their heads down, they did everything they absolutely did. Lee Partridge as well had to get out quickly, did. Sam Chapman off alongside of him. Cameron Dawes had a really, really good race. Watching him improve this evening has been awesome. Caleb Bellack out of P number 6. And we'll throw it over to Kyle Ridley again. He's had opportunities here tonight. It's been a difficult night for him. Sean McKenzie, Thorts Huller, and Brendan Neal in your top 10. Cam Edwards and Alex Newton with that unlucky performance to round out your top 12. Dave?
Yeah, indeed. Matt Anderson, James Rosso, Jordan Bellack, Ben Breyer, Franz Estabauer, Damien Spinks, Patrick Harding, and Stephen Butcher as our 20 on the grid for the final race. Brodie Watts and Trevor Hearn, I wonder if they can take that teamwork from race number 2 and convert it again in race number 3, starting alongside each other on the front row of the grid. They're revving, they're waiting for starters orders and for Barney to wave the green flag. We get underway for the final race from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and from Lee Partridge in third, a ripper of a start, already up into second, already looking to split up the teammates, looking to challenge for a race win. He's had great speed around here, but you need more than that. You need great strategy, and you need cards to fall your way, and he's already now challenging around the outside of turn 2 on the cold tyres, looking for the race lead.
Yeah, and you said at the end of the last race was who's going to get the better start out of both of the 949 teammates? Well, neither of them. Neither of them got good starts. It was the second row of the grid that got out to such a big jump. And I think it was Cameron Dawes was around the outside at turn number 2, was having a huge moment. That's the 6 car in the 98. It's Estebauer. And another driver's been wrapped up in that one, the 75 as well, of Damien Spinks. He's had a torrid night here from Canadian Tire Mosport.
So looking back up front, Lee Partridge leads them. Brody Watts and Trevor Hearn have slotted back into second and third. Caleb Billack already with some positions gained up into fourth, watching the leaders. Behind them, they go 3 wide between Ridley, Chapman, and Thor Tuller. Now we go side by side up front. Lee Partridge on the Mario Andretti straight, being swallowed up as Brody Watts passes him, but Caleb Billack looks to slingshot from fourth into first by the end of the back straight.
Yeah, I think everyone else is going to be forced just to watch and admire as he gets such a great run. Partridge got a huge run down and on the inside. It was the next driver of Brody Watts as well that had a big wiggle as he tried to enter turn number 8 in the first of the S's. He's managed to settle it down, and Trevor Hearn's going to go side by side with him through the final corner. Hearn looking to find somewhere to slot in. There's been nowhere to slot in. Bellack's going to weave left, back to right, trying to break the toe, and now it nearly looks as if there's been a breakaway at the end of lap number 1. Bellack and Partridge trying to punch their way clear.
If you'd have told me there was a 2-car breakaway, I would have said, oh, another Brody Watts, Trevor Hearn show. But no, it's Caleb Bellack and Lee Partridge watching the drivers go side by side behind them. They also go side by side here. Don't know if there was any contact, but once one driver in that corner was sideways, the rest had to change their line, and a few also spun or made contact. Unfortunately, that was the opening lap, but I think Partridge and Bellack might just be reeled in here. Hard to say. They did go side by side through turn 2, and I'm not sure that helped.
Yeah, Partridge, I think, wanted to control it, didn't really want to let Bellack run away with this one, and I think Caleb Bellack, out of all the drivers, I think he's really, really aggressive. I said that at the top of the show. He's doubled down on it tonight, communicating with the let's work together, but he's one of the first guys to try and break toe, to try and break momentum, to try and do something to work against these guys. And I can tell you, Lee Partridge wants none of it. Lee Partridge would rather have a 4-car battle pack than working with Caleb Bellack, and I think that's been pretty consistent from everything we've seen from him tonight.
3 wide for the race lead as Brody Watts cuts back 1 lane, looks to cut back another into the race lead, trying to box in Lee Partridge and also advantage his teammate if he can. Disadvantage Bellack if he can do that as well, just by his car positioning. And now they're 4 at the race lead, still with a chance of the group behind catching. Brody Watts, middle lane here, and just offering the outside to Caleb Bellack, but not going to give him the inside into turn number 1.
Yeah, have a look at the drivers. Remember, Bellack's first season in this did not participate in season number 1. They're going to look to go 3 wide. There wasn't really a gap there for Caleb Bellack, and he got that shut down, managed to catch it, so there'll be not much to go on with that one. But now it's Watts and Partridge, and I think it's pretty clear that Watts and Partridge, not big fans of Caleb Bellack, so he's got his work cut out for him. But how good was the racing on lap number 1? A blanket over the top 4 as they came to the start-finish line.
Throw a blanket over our top 13 now as they go 3 wide, coming underneath the bridge down towards Moss Corner. Just boxed in Bellack. He had nowhere to go. He tried to fight his way out of it. He'll try to fight his way forward once again. The bit of the red mist on. Brody Watts leads from Lee Partridge. Bellack, after an off-road adventure, back into third. Trevor Hearn slipping here into 6th while his teammate leads. He's now well apart from him.
Yeah, so obviously trying to time that one. Thor Tuller's been progressing himself really, really nicely here. Been enjoying watching along this. He's going to try and come out of this one and box in. I believe that was Cam Edwards. He's just trying to go around the 3 wide for the race lead once again. Bellac's now going to be over on the outside. It'll be Partridge to his inside. Brody Watts all the way down on the very inside of the track. And now Partridge has just managed to get that nose ahead. It'll be the outside for the second last corner. Bellac going to try and pull the crisscross, shut him out the door. And that door has indeed been slammed closed. If you heard a car door slam in your street, it was Caleb Bellac on Lee Partridge.
Trevor Hearn went out wide and into the wall, took no one else with him. 12 cars in the lead group now, led by Caleb Bellac. Big mover in this race so far. Thortuller as well, 6 positions gained, 9th on the grid. He's now racing in 3rd. This is the view for Trevor Hearn.
Oh, that's a little bit of tripping over each other. He struggled this second race. This last race of the night. He's really not looked. He's looked a little bit all at sea. So I wonder whether or not Brody was pulling him along just a little bit. He's struggled in season number 2. He was one of the standout performers. Really love watching him racing him in season number 1. But yeah, not doing so well. And have a look at Brody Watts getting boxed in. All the pace, nowhere to take it.
Really needs dramatic music, Flight of the Valkyries or something. Tiny bit of nose at tail contact on the way into Moss corner here, I think, between Partridge and Bellac. Partridge just trying to park the line, let them fight behind, and fight they will as Breyer and a couple of others, Matt Anderson, James Rosso potentially, I think with a 3 back there. And Lee Partridge leads them onto the back straight. It needs dramatic music as they all appear over the rises, and you go, oh, there's the lead battle. It's a flock. And they are 3 wide for the race lead this time. It seems like if you're 3rd out of Moss corner onto the Mario Andretti straight, you really can leapfrog to the race lead the length of the back straight the way it is.
Yeah, but it's all about timing. You've got to be a certain distance back to really make full advantage of it. Pinches Caleb Bellac really, really tight as they come through 8. Down through number 9. He's going to run him as wide as he possibly can for the side of Brody Watts. And now it's Bellac who'll do the exact same back to Brody Watts. Watts gets the wiggle on. Now it's Lee Partridge that'll cross them both over. And he'll get to the race lead. And here comes Cam Edwards. If you hadn't seen Cam Edwards here tonight, that's him. There he is, right there. Going to come and pick the pockets and go to P number 2.
2 wide the whole way through the field in the right-hand lane. Got a great run as the contact checked up the drivers around the outside. Sees Partridge and Edwards go forward. Kyle Ridley trying to make good on that line as well, but drops back into 4th at the moment. Caleb Dawes and Thortuller now dropping some spots in this group. Looking at Dawes around the outside there. You just don't want to touch the grass here.
Yeah, the tricky thing, so the last lap when they come down and in here, Bellac got too far over on the left-hand side, hit the bumps, tagged the grass in between the two at the double apex at the crest of turn number 4 on the run in on Moss. That's what gave him a little bit of upset. Everyone else reacted around. Now it's going to be Bellac that's in the prime position as they come off the Moss corner once more. Where's he going to send this one? Is he going to time it? Is he going to be forced to the left-hand side of the road? Lee Partridge has the race lead. Cam Edwards has got a shot here too. Edwards is a really long way back. That's going to be a lot of momentum by the time they get to the S's. Potentially could be Cam Edwards race leader as they come off of 8.
They go from single file to 3 wide very, very quickly as it fans out, and does Bellac all the way to the extreme outside, have enough speed, enough momentum to then chop back, try to take the race lead. Not even at the halfway point of this one yet. And every lap they get to the end of the Andretti straight and they just want to be leading. It's Cam Edwards who will lead them this time to the line.
Yeah, Cam Edwards, another driver that's been very, very unlucky in his recent simulated motorsports past. It's just if there's an incident happening on track, Cam Edwards has unluckily been the driver that's generally the first on the scene and collects it. He's going to chalk up a lap lead though in the Formula V Australia Series, and he's going to put the mockers all over the rear bumper of Caleb Bellac. And Bellac, I think, there was a few moments in the last couple of laps where I looked at him and went, he looks to be driving just a little bit frustrated, a little bit exasperated. Positions that he thought maybe would have come a little bit easier, they're not coming his way quite so easy anymore.
View on board from Sean McKenzie as he watches 6 drivers in front of him chop and change lanes and try to pick up slipstream, try to carry their momentum somewhere that'll let them gain another position or so. And he is just watching, expecting something to play out. Which is a very, very good bet, I would say.
Well, I reckon we go back to that onboard shot as you come up off the straight from Sean McKenzie. And I think one of the critical things is watch them weave from the right to the left-hand side of the race. You've got to pick when do you come out of the draft. See the driver ahead of him? That's Brody Watts. Pulled out of the draft a fraction too early. Now he's lost momentum. Sean McKenzie got a little bit of a run, but lifted. Again, using that brain. When do I want to poke the nose out? Here goes Partridge. It's Cam Edwards. It's Cam Edwards in the grass. The pass in the grass on the inside. They're on to turn number 8. And if Caleb Bednack's feathers and cage were not rattled before, they certainly are now.
Saw an opening, saw it close, still committed to it. 2 tires on the grass, went down the inside, now leads them into the back half of this race. 10 positions gained in this race from Cam Edwards, and it is not done yet. He's trying to hold that lead extreme to the inside at turn 2. Partridge stays behind him. Bellac pulls out of line to try to gain around the outside, which is the risky maneuver, but you've got to do something to try to find a reward in a pack this group, this ferocious.
Yeah, and remember that cheeky move from Edwards. Well, Bellac tried to repay the favour right there. So remember, these race car drivers, they've got memories. They'll remember this. They'll chalk this in the back of their minds. Now it's going to be a little bit of a run coming the way of Lee Partridge. Edwards covers that just a little bit. Enough movement there just to shut down the run from Caleb Bellac. Partridge going to go around the outside. We haven't gone through Moss Corner too wide very often and had it come out positive the other side. But guess what? They're all learning. They're all improving. And that is the golden standard of Formula V Australia right there. That was incredible. It's only going to kick on from there.
Stretches the pack out a little bit, though, as they all got checked up on the way through. Give your top 2 a little bit of space to the rest. Bellac trying to come around the outside, and it's not a 3-way battle here. It's just 2 cars side by side. They are getting closed in so quickly from the drivers behind. No, surely we can't.
Well, they asked the questions, and Kyle Ridley and Lee Partridge, I think it was, had the opportunity to do so. Both of them looked at each other and went, well, if you're not doing it, then neither am I, and they both backed out. My word! Asking questions of each other this race. Absolutely everyone. This is phenomenal. Like I said, golden standard in terms of driver safety. Now we're starting to see golden standards in terms of racecraft as well. And here comes Edwards once again to the inside of Bellac. It's not done yet. Cam Edwards wants another one next to his name.
They almost touch wheels, approaching the turn-in point of turn number 2. 2 wide, 1 row deep, 2 rows deep, 3 rows deep, as they work their way through one of Canada's most corners. Incredibly high speed. Caleb Bellac swooped from the inside of 2 around the outside of 3 and still leads this one. In the last race, when he was in the mid-group of drivers, he was able to pull away from a group of cars behind. As the race leader, looking at the drivers behind him, I just don't think he stands at all a chance of being able to park himself in the race lead.
7 minutes on the clock, Dave, and that means we've got 4 racing laps to come from Canadian Time Mosport Park. It's been awesome. It's been the best flyaway Phillip Island replica I've ever seen, and the Formula V Australia Series is not done with this one yet. Edwards has had enough of the fighting up at the front row of this thing, because here comes Partridge. One more time, the pass in the grass. They are going to go 4 wide, Dave. They asked the question earlier on. This time the Vans said, yes, we can do it. And Caleb Bellac has gone from P number 1 for Moss Corner. He's now 6th position. My word.
It all happens in an instant. Whoever's leading hits this wall of speed, this wall of air at about 160 kilometers an hour. Anyone in the slipstream, suddenly, they're not just walking, they're jogging the pace. The gap closed. And with that much speed, you've got to look for a line to go, and the S's provide that kind of challenge where the driver on the inside, the driver on the outside, either of them, with the right bravery, with the right commitment, can come up trumps. Cameron Dawes looks like he drops off the leading group, and then there were 8. Kyle Ridley's got almost half a second in here. Partridge, Watts, Bellac will look to close that down ASAP.
I tell you what, Lee Partridge just letting on Caleb Bellac a little bit as if to say, nah, mate, that one was mine. And Bellac tried to hang it out and around the outside. Bellac, I think, really, really unsettled. He is not going to take any more of this. You're about to see him unleash the beast. He's ready to pull the trigger. And I wonder whether or not Brodie Watts is going to go around the outside and look to build that momentum on him. I think he's going to get boxed in here. What's the replay for this time? We're about to find out.
Cameron Dawes on the outside there of one. Has a little bit of squeeze, and as he goes out wide on the grass, you just cannot carry speed through there. You can't keep the throttle pinned, you've got to back it out. And it cost him a couple seconds, it cost him a ticket to the lead battle. Ridley being closed by Partridge. Bellac and Brodie Watts absolutely side by side in third and fourth. The rest of the drivers closing up the gap as they come into the S's. 3 more laps to go still. I feel like they've been racing like it was the second to last lap since about the second lap, and they make just a little bit of contact as they all close up through the penultimate corner, but everyone carries on and the pack stays together.
Yeah, it was Lee Partridge that checked up, Bellac that checked up. I think it was Brodie Watts, or it was either Brodie Watts or Cam Edwards. It was one of those two, and then they all, 3 of them, tripped over each other and got away with it out the other side. 3 laps to go. Ridley is just trying to run as hard and as fast as he can. These guys are squabbling. They all want to be in the right position at 1 to go. That's the critical marker. So to set up to be in the right position at 1 to go, you've got to set up to be in nearly the best spot at 2 to go, and then you find that best spot at 1 to go. So it's all going to start happening now, and Ridley's been reeled back in. They've taken a fair chunk out of him through the first sector. They're coming back at him. Watch that rear view mirror, Kyle Ridley, because you have got a hungry Lee Partridge coming your way.
Sure does. Still the leading 8 cars within 2 seconds. Ridley gets a tiny bit of the grass in the middle of Moss Corner, has a wobble, keeps it pointing the right way, but instead of being 8 car lengths ahead of Lee Partridge coming off of Moss Corner, it's only 2, it's 1, it's about to be nothing, and Partridge pulls out to one side. Bellac still follows in the leader's line and then pulls out 1 lane, but he might almost get boxed in. He will get boxed in by Cameron Edwards. Lee Partridge moving to the lead halfway down the straight and gets slingshotted back past again. Leapfrog, leapfrog, leapfrog is the way they go down the back straight. Side by side between Edwards and Partridge now for the race lead. Bellac and Ridley behind that. Cam Edwards has picked some amazing runs of late in this final race.
Well, I've heard of this Christmas song, David Haynes, of a partridge in a pear tree. What about Lee Partridge in a Formula V? My word, he is putting on a clinic here tonight. Had a great run thus far, really showing some strong racecraft, and now he's going to pick up a little bit of grass on the left-hand side, showing that a lawn mowing Formula V can still be quick.
9 racers racing, 8 drivers driving. No, but we know how it ends, but we don't know how this race ends. Cam Edwards leading the way from Partridge and Bellac. All of this just jockeying for position onto the Mario Andretti straight and then thinking about the final lap, about timing it to perfection. There is no breaking away with this one. There is no deals between teammates. There's no handshakes or flipping the coin. Everyone in it for themselves in our leading 8 as once again a checkup in the middle of Moss Corner.
Yeah, and it was Bellac sort of dived towards the apex right in front of Brodie Watts. All Brodie Watts could have done at that point in time was lifted off the throttle and hoped. Because if he'd have tapped the brakes, that thing would have gone around. Now Bellac's going to try and squeeze between the two of them. He can't go there. There wasn't a gap. Now here comes to the outside. It's going to be Cam Edwards who drops back multiple positions. Watts has got a few spaces on this one. It's going to be the lead for Lee Partridge. Back to 5th place now for Cam Edwards. They are 3 wide. They're looking to go 4 wide. Where's the gap? It's disappearing. It's changing every time. Ridley to the outside of Partridge, and Brodie Watts is into P3. Bellac back to 4th. There'll be 1 more lap to go when they cross the start-finish line this time by and throw a blanket over the field. We've got 8 cars ready to go, duke it out at Mosport for the final lap.
Partridge holds his race lead. Brodie Watts really benefiting out of all of that to put himself into a position to fight for this win here as well on the final lap. You cannot count out the driver in 3rd though. whoever's in third coming out of Moss really does seem like if they find the lane, they can carry so much speed. Ballack can carry so much speed through turn number 2 as well to go side by side with Brodie Watts. Lee Partridge watching it all happen, still with that race lead, but that is a nervous place to be on the final lap, is in the race lead. It's perverse to think about, but that's how it goes.
Oh, 5, and there's a blanket on a 5 of them. They're all just about 2 wide. They've all got a spotter crawling to them right now. Carl left, Carl right. Where's the gap? Brodie Watts nearly had Kyle Ridley in his lap coming through the rear bumper, and Ballack has got a horrible run off of Moss corner. He's dropped back into 3rd spot. I thought he was going to lose all the way back to 4th. Ridley's going to be under the rear bumper. It's Partridge. It's Partridge in a Formula V. Is it going to be Partridge that crosses the line in a Formula V with a big old number 1? I don't think so. Here comes Watts to his outside. Ballack to the middle. You can't throw anything between them. 4 wide for the second time tonight. It worked once. It didn't work the second time. It's going to be Kyle Ridley that gets through on the field. Partridge in a Formula V. Partridge nearly over a fence as Kyle Ridley got this thing won. Sam Chapman's going to have something to try and do about it into the last corner, Dave.
4 wide, we thought we were going to see it, and that's why we didn't. It just doesn't work. There isn't space, and the consequences are drastic. Kyle Ridley works his way through the big one to take the final race win at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park from Sam Chapman, from Thor Tuller. Sean McKenzie looks like he comes through in 4th. Lee Partridge, big damage on the man who led coming to the final lap, and he just wants to get it to the checkered flag. Caleb Ballack looks like he's crossed the line in 10th, and that one is going to take a lot of digesting post-race. Absolutely the timing you would have expected for the big one. 4 wide, everyone wanted their share of the biscuit.
It was squabbling on, and have a look. Basically, Ballack goes, I want to open up a spot. Where can I open up the spot? So this is the rundown through turn number 4. We're going to come out from behind the trees. See, have a look at that. Ridley was nearly in the back end of Watts there. Then Ballack goes out and around the outside. Nearly doesn't get back into line, but Ridley has to lift. If Ridley doesn't lift, he doesn't get into the draft lane. And that's the critical thing there. Now they're going to be 4. It's going to be Partridge from Watts, from Ballack, from Ridley. And Ridley sees a gap, and he goes through it. Ballack goes, well, I'm going to go down the middle of these guys. Partridge has the gap to the right-hand side, uses it, but wants to pin all these drivers together. Ridley reads them all correctly, and as they go 4 wide, Watts misjudges it by a millimetre and comes back across. There was space for 4 wide there. There was 4.5 car widths, I would say. 4.5 Formula V widths on the back straight there, Dave. And unfortunately, the drivers, I think the big thing was they lost track of where the other drivers were.
When you're 2 wide, you see where the guy is on your left or your right. When you're 3 wide, you go, okay, well, if I'm the driver at far right, I've just got to stay far right. If I'm the driver middle, I just got to stay middle. Once you're 4 wide, you just can't judge where that other car is, that there's a car between you and them, and you give a little too much space one side, the other. You just can't know in a circumstance like that. That's why you take that big risk when you look to go 4 wide. And Kyle Ridley in the perfect place at the perfect time. You needed to be in that leading group of 8 on the final lap to have your ticket in the lotto. His number came up, and he takes a race win that I'm sure he'll be very, very pleased with. Reading down the rest of the results, Sam Chapman and Thor Tuller complete that podium. Mackenzie in 4th, and James Russo, Cameron Dawes, Brendan Neal and Cam Edwards, Stephen Butcher and Caleb Ballack in 10th. Brodie Watts in 11th, Ben Breyer, France Estabauer, Lee Partridge, Matt Anderson, Trevor Hearn, Patrick Harding, Damien Spinks and Alexander Newton all on the lead lap. 1 lap down, Jordan Bielek. This circuit, these cars, they're identical. It comes down to the drivers, but it comes down to a game of chess with a slipstream like these cars have in the way they pack race.
Yeah, it's moments, right? It's millimeters, it's inches, it's split seconds, it's timing that run, it's positioning the car absolutely perfectly, and you know, they did it once. They got through their 4 wide once. once and once only, Dave.
And we can get a little bit of insight into it because the race 3 winner, Kyle Ridley, is ready to come have a chat. Hopefully some of our other race winners come by and chat as well. Kyle, I'm sure your heart rate is still up, the adrenaline still going. What did you read of that final lap?
Oh, look, I knew it was going to be a little bit of chaos. it's all about timing that draft. That's why I was trying to sit in third to fourth, timed it pretty well, got up, we were 4 wide, and then they all disappeared. So I don't know what happened. I haven't seen it back, but all I know is found myself in the lead with 3 corners to go, and I took the checkered flag. Very happy.
Absolutely. This track, crazy in these cars. You've really only got one slow corner. I mean, I think about the comparison to Phillip Island, but that's got 2 even slower hairpins. This is a very high average speed circuit, and that means powerful slipstreaming, powerful packs.
That's it. The draft was worth a lot today, as there was really maybe 2 braking zones and a couple lifting off points. So not a lot of power, but yeah, the draft was super useful, and that's why we had the packs of 10 cars. So it just adds that dynamic of having to be smart rather than the quickest car doesn't always win.
When you look around the grid and the drivers you're racing with, a lot of drivers with that real world racing experience, a lot of sim racing heavy hitters, does that make a victory like this just a little bit sweeter?
I think doing this lead is always nice. Like I said, there's some good quality drivers in here, some IRL drivers, and it's just nice to get the pole and get the feature win.
Well, congrats, and we won't have to wait too long to see you back in action in the Formula V Esports Cup.
That's it, next week. I actually practiced that one, so this should be hopefully it's just as good as this week.
See you there.
Thank you.
Kyle Ridley, the race 3 winner, and we do have our wish granted, Scott Rankin, with all of the race winners dropping by. And how about we go reverse order and pick up the race 1 winner?
Well, I was going to say, I don't think we got very once. We can have, was it Thortella that managed to take out race 1? I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah. No, it was Sam Chapman that managed to take out race number 1. It was that long ago. It was that many passes for the lead ago that we've just about lost it. Sam Chapman, that wasn't a bad night out at the office, and there was some reflective paint on that car. Have you been out there with the polishing spray trying to smooth every single edge of that car down as fine as you can get it for the ultimate aerodynamic performance?
Yeah, mate, I've been working hard. That's what brought the pace tonight, I think. It's all my scrubbing and polishing and waxing. So glad to see it right up on the broadcast. It wasn't showing up on my screen.
In terms of things here tonight, mate, that's we referred to this as nearly the overseas Phillip Island. Is that about how it felt from within the car? It was draft packs aplenty. It was duck, dick, dive, and dodge at just about every opportunity. It was not an easy race by any stretch of the imaginations to win that race number 1, second in race number 3. It's just about a pretty consistent night. That looks like you finally found the secret to going fast, mate.
Yeah, I think so. I think I had a little bit of pace before, but the consistency just wasn't there. So going into tonight, it was just I've done this track a bit. I've done it in GT4s and that as well. It's a great track, especially for Vs. But yeah, it was just sort of not getting yourself into, when you see a 4 wide, probably don't make it 5, and just sort of hanging back. And those guys, especially at the end, I was just watching it going, this has got to go pear-shaped. We've got blokes on the grass. We're going 4 wide through a section. There's going to go wrong at some point. There's quite a bit of contact throughout the races as well at times, but it was just that sort of light wheel-to-wheel where you're able to save it.
Yeah, man. Look, we could definitely tell that from up here. I mean, take us back to it. I mean, we saw 2 separate passes for the lead. I mean, talk us through your mindset around that. Like, is that something that you're willing to do? Is that something you say, that's probably a little bit far for me? Because, I mean, each and every individual racer, they've got a different mindset about the way they go about it. What's the Sam Chapman way?
I think I was pretty confident going into tonight. It was just sort of, balancing it and not getting too aggressive until the final bits, which is what's sort of done me before, is just making silly, over the top things early in a race when you don't need to. So it's just about staying with that pack, and then I'm happy to sort of take a lead if I can, but not push for it until those final, especially that group of 8. I was sitting in sort of 8th for most of it, but it was very difficult to actually move through it from that point.
And finally, mate, the opportunity to thank the sponsors that make it possible for the 101 car.
Sponsors would be me, myself, and I. I can thank my parents actually for the pedals. So those are the sponsors for tonight. So hence the just nice, shiny silver car with no sponsorship other than the sponsors that sponsor this. So thank you to them as well.
Most importantly, where do you find your wax and your polish? Just so I can write that down so I know where to go and find my performance products.
At Super Cheap Auto, of course. So go check that out. I've got some review.
Thank you very much, Sam, and pleasure talking to you, mate. Congratulations tonight. I think probably going to be the round victory.
Brilliant. All right, thank you.
And finally, Dave, I think, have you got Thortella potentially on standby there?
I hope so. We've got double podium finisher Thortella joining us. You would have had a very, very good ringside view to a lot of everything that transpired tonight, because I feel like we did have a lot of everything.
Oh, let me tell you. Yeah, just tried to hang back and let everyone else do their own thing, and yeah, I feel pretty lucky for 2 podiums. Yeah, can't complain.
I mean, race number 1 on the podium sees you starting in 18th for race number 2. That's the reverse grid format, and it's certainly that it sets out some work for you. You went forward to 9th and then forward to another podium.
Yeah, the race 2, I had a little more of a difficult start. I couldn't exactly go through the pack as quickly as I wanted, but again, managed to avoid incidents. I actually got hit, but hey, finished, and yeah, really happy with 3 single-digit results.
How have you been finding the racing then in the Formula V? Because from the outside perspective, it does just look like bicycle racing. No one wants to be the leader until that final lap.
Oh, it's just an absolute blast. Everyone likes to race really hard. Like, rubbing his racing is into full effect here, but I gotta say, it's really a lot of fun. You Australians really know how to race. Yeah, yeah, I've been having an absolute blast.
Going from Canada here to Barber in the US for back-to-back Wednesday night rounds with this championship, that would probably be a little tighter, a little slower, a little less slipstreamy at Barber. What do you think you can do there? Will it suit or work against your driving style?
Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make Barber. I have a move to do, so everyone else is going to have fun on their own. So
do you feel that the high speeds here suited you?
Much better. Yeah, this track and I felt like they really suited my driving style a lot more, and yeah, if anything, I'm glad I'm not doing Barber, because that's not exactly one of my most favorite tracks.
Double podium in a round where absolutely nothing was guaranteed. Congratulations, and hopefully we will see you for some of the later rounds in the championship as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Go. Great to hear from Thortella. Great to hear from 3 of our drivers after a absolutely topsy-turvy, but no doubt enthralling and entertaining and unpredictable round 4. Round 3 is next, which is weird to say, but with the rescheduling, that's just how it works. We'll get a great look at Barber in 1 week's time here on SimSpeedTV, and we'll be bringing you coverage of that one as well as the championship continues to unfold. Caleb Bellak's unstoppable in the first 2 rounds, maybe coming undone a little bit at this point, and certainly adding a little more spice. You'll see it all here on SimSpeedTV in just 1 week's time. I've been David Haynes, joined by Scott Rank and Jay Kennedy, producing all of the pictures and the replays, and boy, did we need those. And of course, our thanks go out to Motorsport Australia Esports, V-Race Experience, Echuca Toyota, Giant Mandurah, and Southern Cross Esports, all combining to make the broadcast, make the racing possible. The racing has been incredible. See you for next round next week.
It's motorsport, but not as you know it. Test yourself and your everyday road car. Safe, affordable, but most of all, fun. And all you need is your daily driver. Experience the thrill of a sprint day. Race against the clock at a hill climb. Or test your reflexes with an auto test. It takes just 3 simple steps to get started. Get on the start line. Search Motorsport Australia Daily Driver today.